In one of my latest videos, I talked about all of the most anticipated releases of fantasy, romantasy, and sci-fi books 2026. So I thought it would be only fair to share which books I plan to read. And according to this pile, I'm probably going to be quite busy. I want to start with one book that I'm really excited about that isn't out yet, so it's not in one of those piles. But it's called The Poet Empress by Shen Tao. It's a debut novel and it will be released the 20th of January. And I think it sounds so interesting. It's about a girl who wants to save her village and her family from starvation, so she becomes the emperor's heir's concubine. But in order to survive, she needs to do a very dangerous task. She must learn how to write poetry and therefore write spells in a society where women can't use magic. The magic system of this book sounds so fun to me since it's poetry based, and I can't wait to read it because it sounds really unique. And then I also want to continue the Heavenly Bodies series. I'm in the middle of this and it feels really promising. But there's also the book Fallen Stars, and then Holy Monsters will be released in November. And I hope that the rest of the series lives up to the beginning of this one, but I really like Imani Eriu's writing style and also the theme of these books. Next up is some sci-fi because I got the Project Hail Mary here and I've only heard good things about it. People are raving about this book. But since the movie is releasing in March, I thought I would read this book closer to that and then maybe compare the two of them. I also have been avoiding the trailer since I know it has some major spoilers. So if you don't know what this is about, don't look up the trailer. But as I've understood it, it's about a guy who wakes up at the spaceship or space station and he doesn't remember a thing. So it's the amnesia trope and then the story takes off from there. It says there that if he fails, humanity and the earth itself will perish. So this will be an interesting read for sure. Another sci-fi series that is really popular that I've been sleeping on a bit is the Red Rising saga by Pierce Brown. I know that so many people love this, so it will be so interesting to see what it's all about. I honestly don't know anything about it more than that a lot of people love it, and some people say that the first book is a bit slow, so I'm going to go into it completely blind, but I think that's fun when you're starting a new series. Another author I want to explore next year is Fonda Lee, because I've also heard so many good things about her series Jade City. I've heard that it's an interesting mix of fantasy, a mafia boss situation, and also an interesting magic system with Jade. And I've also heard so many good things about those books. She also have another new release coming out next year, which I talked about in my most anticipated book video, and it's called The Last Contract of Isako. It's about a swordswoman who plans to retire, but then she gets an offer she can't refuse where she's supposed to end her last but also her worst apprentice who has risen to the top. While she's doing the mission, she uncovers dark corporate secrets and something that could change humanity's existence forever. So that sounds interesting as well. That book will be released in May, so we'll see which ones I get to first. And also, if you want to read my really long list of the most anticipated releases of fantasy, romantasy, and sci-fi next year, you can check the link in the description, or you can use the code up here to go to my website. My next read is this duology, which I've also heard so many good things about. You see a common theme here. I get really hyped up on recommendations, and I've heard some different opinions of which one of these books people like the most, but I'm looking forward to reading them both. Speaking of romantasy, we also have this book, which I think is indie published so far. It's called Kissed by the Gods from Kathy Rogan, and it's also supposed to be really good, at least what I've heard from those who have read it. It's about Lena, who has spent a lifetime submitting, kneeling, enduring. When the soldiers come for her brother, she expects the worst, but instead she gets a kiss from a goddess that changes everything. So instead of being hunted, she is no longer a criminal, she is a prize. The kingdom's most powerful men want the goddess' touch. Lena wants only one thing, though, freedom for her people, and she'll trade herself for the strength to destroy the kingdom that broke them. So that sounds like a lot of reading fun. One of the reasons this pile is so big is because I got the whole Throne of Glass series gifted to me for my birthday. So deep in the mass universe, I can't wait to read this. I read ACOTAR and I also read Crescent City for the first time last year, and I really enjoy her writing and especially her characters. I read somewhere that you could and maybe should tandem read some of these books, so if you have a recommended reading order for me, please share it down in the comments. A book I mentioned in my other video is Thyristal March. It's set in a world where fairies vanished centuries ago, but our main protagonist dreams of studying the Fae. She inherits a building which is almost falling apart and she has to start renovating it. But as she does, mysterious things start to happen in the estate, and things might not be what they seem. It will be released in April and I can't wait to read this either. Another new release that sounds really promising is The Astral Library, which is about a woman who discovers a library where she can walk into different books and try out new lives. But a dark force is threatening the library and everything it shelters, and then the story takes off from there. And then we have The Geomagician, which sounds really unique. It takes place in Victorian England, where a scientist dreams of becoming a geomagician, a scientist who uses dinosaur bones to create her magic. She discovers an egg with a dinosaur in it, and this could change the course of her future, but also science itself. Evil scholars want to take the egg and the discovery from her, and she is forced to work together with her ex-fiancé, which she doesn't know if she can trust. The next book is a cooperation between Kat Clark and V.E. Schwab under the name Evelyn Clark. They have written a crime novel together about a group of authors that comes to an island for a writing retreat. But then they find their colleague murdered and they have to solve this case by finishing his manuscript. Since I love a good crime book every now and I also want to read more of V.E. Schwab, this will be so much fun to read when it's released in April. A book that a lot of people say is really good and has been on my TBR for a while is The Raven Scholar. In this book, our main protagonist has to compete to replace the emperor. So there is an academia, there are trials, and it's supposed to have really interesting magic system with bonded animals. There's also a murder going on, so it sounds like everything I like in a book. And also the second book in this series will be released sometime next year, so I better get going with this so I'm ready for when The Fox in the Winter is released. These are another interconnected universe that I can't wait to get into by Bree Greenwich and Lennox Parker. So these books are indie published, but they have recently been bought by Penguin UK. So they will be traditionally published soon. And from what I've heard about this book, it's one of the best romantasy books of the year. Since it's interconnected, you're supposed to read these first, so you can't just skip them and go straight ahead for The Ascended. But I'm really looking forward to see what this is all about. Another author I want to read more of is R.F. Kuang, so I got Catabasis here. If you should read any other R.F. Kuang books before, please comment down below which one I should go for first. And then we have a robot book, which I'm looking forward to. It's called Ode to the Half Broken, and it sounds both really interesting but also quite sad, honestly. It takes place in a world after a war between machines and humans, and we follow a robot who lives in the botanical gardens of New York. But after an attack from outside forces, he has to go out in the world with unexpected companions, and then discovers that the fighting might not be over and the world might not be what it seems. Leigh Bardugo has announced that she's probably going to have 2 books released next year, and I'm really excited about one of them. And it's a new Six of Crows book, Letters from Ketterdam. And I love the Six of Crows duology, so I'm really looking forward to spending some more time with them. In this book, we follow a mysterious sea captain, the Wraith, who is attacking merchants and slave handlers in Ketterdam, and also the mafia boss Cass Brecker. And they have to work together to solve a massacre that has occurred on one of the islands. So that sounds really promising, and I'm looking forward to reading it this summer. Brandon Sanderson is also on my list because he's publishing a new Cosmere novella, and it's called Fires of December, and we get to follow the character Hoyd. There's no release date yet, but it seems like it's coming out at the end of 2026. If you are familiar with the Cosmere, you probably know who Hoyd is. This is the first of 4 novellas about his backstory that we get to read. So I probably want to read that and maybe some other Cosmere books. I got a little burned out from reading the whole Stormlight archive in one stretch, but now I feel like I might be ready for some more Cosmere. Both Sarah J. Maas and also Rebecca Yarros have told us that they are plotting or writing their next book in their series. So if another Fourth Wing book or another ACOTAR book is released, I'm of course going to read that, but we have no more information than that, so that's just me hoping. So I'm going to be really busy next year, and there probably will be some titles added to this list. If you want to know which books I loved and can't stop thinking about from 2025, check out this video.